2-0 in this group format, if you get 2 out of 3 wins, then you're at least guaranteed another race. And if you have I believe if you have 2 people with 1 loss each, then that would clinch.
Right.
Oh, no.
It really depends on the number of matches still remaining, but having a 2-0 lead with after 2 races is definitely a good position to be in.
The guarantee is that if you get 2 wins in this group format, you are at least guaranteed another race. And it looks like we are getting started. We have a World 2 to begin with. This is not a terrible world to find early because there are a couple of Hammer Brothers. I expect both of these racers interesting. Jveth not choosing to take the Sand of Shame. It's only a little bit slower to go down this way, and you get a power-up.
Right, power-ups are shuffled around, so it could be we got a mushroom here, so nice pickup there. Could be a star or a 1-up, which you don't typically want to see if you're looking for one of those extra hit points.
Tapatio nailing the Superman jump. Well done. That is an incredibly scary jump. Jveth unfortunately taking a death to the paratroopa guarding those music blocks. 8-2 is not a level you want to see early. We have 3-7 coming up. It'll be interesting to see, and it looks like he is going to go for this item up here. One of the most recent changes that was made to the randomizer before the... Oh no, he's passing it right up. I wonder if he knows about this. There is a coin heaven in Vanilla 3.7 that if you take it all the way to the end, you'll not only finish the level, but you'll get an item. And a lot of players don't know that that item exists.
Yeah, I had no idea until people started racing this in the tournament.
Wow, 7F2 is the first fort. This is quite a start to this seed.
Yeah, it's a rough fort to start with, just because with enemies being shuffled, you see these fire-breathing Prada plants.
Not good.
Just
Tap,
for that jump a bit.
Yeah, Tap, unfortunately, taking a death with a star, so now he will have all of his power-ups gone, and that's going to make this fort extremely treacherous.
So just a quick overview on what is shuffled here in Super Mario Bros. 3 Randomizer. You've got worlds 1 through 7 shuffled amongst each other, always ending on world 8. Levels within each overworld are shuffled, and then enemies are shuffled as well. So you see a nasty combination of fire piranha plants, which aren't normally there here in this fortress.
Well, 7F2 being very generous with the stars in the seed, so that will definitely make it a little bit less tolerable.
Yeah,
this platforming is still very difficult, but having those stars can make it significantly easier to be able to navigate. These waffles not treating Tap very kindly either. Looks like both of our runners are going to wind up passing on this item in Vanilla 3.7.
Which could be... Could that be a cloud or a hammer as well?
Yes, it can be anything. It's actually it's a cloud in Vanilla.
Okay.
It's a cloud in Vanilla, and it actually used to be part of a beginner route.
Interesting.
Tap going back for items, looks like. Not a bad call. It's definitely not a bad idea to visit toad houses early in the game, but once you hit your first end spade, you're usually pretty good on items. Jveth needs to be careful in this fortress because he is on his last life.
Right, it's not uncommon to see players go out of their way for both items and extra lives, matching cards in the standard stages.
Unfortunately, this seed not giving Jveth the chance to do that because there are only 2 levels, and Jveth taking an unfortunate game over.
Right.
In that fortress, so he will need to complete the first 2 levels again.
At least he knows what they are and where to go, but he is a bit behind as a result of that.
And that can be the big difference maker in these randomizer seeds is the early game. And speaking of deaths, Tap taking a death in Vanilla 1.5. I swear that those flying Paragoombas are some of the worst enemies in the randomizer.
Definitely, they just You want to jump in a specific spot, and they're right there to meet you.
Because most of the time in the randomizer, when you see an enemy spawn, your first instinct is to jump. But if you do that with the Paragoombas, you'll jump right into them because of the way they take off.
Exactly. And there you see Tapatio grabbing that triple star for the 5-up.
That's a very common strategy early in the game. Is you'll see a lot of runners take a 5-up from the starting from the first set of 3 levels and then just ignore lives from there. Obviously, it depends on your skill level with the game, but you'll see a lot of top tier runners get 1 set of lives just in case, and then they'll just ignore lives from there. Because although lives are a nice safety net, getting 3 stars in a row does eat up a little bit of time at the end of the level. And again, depending on the skill level of the runners, that can make or break a race.
Definitely.
Both of these runners, I believe, are versed in other randomizers, but are new to this one.
Yeah, with open entry in this tournament, you see a lot of varying skill amongst the entrants. You got players who run the standard game normal speed run, you got players who've never played the randomizer before the tournament, and anywhere in between.
Oh, absolutely. There's some pretty strong names that have come pretty much out of nowhere that don't have any experience or minimal experience running the vanilla game that have been very good at being able to adapt. Tap getting 7-2, which is a level where it's preferred you have a leaf so that you don't have to build the note block bridge. Jveth taking another stab at this terrible, terrible fortress, having a little bit of difficulty lining up the 1-foot jump to get the star. But does manage to get his star, and he will need to... Oh, gets eaten by a piranha plant just as his invincibility runs out.
Yeah, this is always a rough. We've seen this multiple times here in the tournament where this is the first fortress, and it's not a fun one to be on.
It can definitely make the difference between the men and the boys. Thankfully, there are certain enemies that are restricted from spawning in this fortress that would make it an absolute nightmare.
See what the Hammer Brothers have here. Just a star.
That's still important because you typically want to have 1 star at the end of the run for Bowser's Castle.
Just gotta find that Hammer Brothers suit next.
And Tap playing very, very aggressively, getting punished for it in what appears to be one of the 8 beta levels in the game. We do have 8 unused levels from the original Super Mario Bros. 3 that are on the cartridge. There's just no way to access them without any kind of hacking device. So what Fred did to make those levels available in the randomizer is he just needed to change a few things about them so that they didn't crash. And now those will replace 8 other levels in the level pool.
See that backward swimming fish?
That will happen if you get that kind of fish to spawn in that position. Some of the beta stages do have their enemies randomized, some do not. That's something that I've been meaning to ask Fred about, is if the lack of enemy shuffling has something to do with the levels being playable.
See Tap moving into the first airship. Notice that the auto-scroller has been disabled. No need to wait for it to scroll through.
One nice thing about the randomizer is that all but 2 auto-scrollers have been removed from the game. One of them is in one of the beta levels, and removing the auto-scrolling has actually caused that level to crash upon loading, which is why the auto-scrolling has not been removed. And the other auto-scroller still in the game is 5-9, which the auto-scrolling cannot be removed from that for technical reasons.
That's the diagonal auto-scroller with the
Yes.
fire chomp.
Yes, the fact that diagonal auto-scrolling is possible on an NES is a marvel in and of itself. Just because of the way the NES loads graphics. And looks like we have the first king of The run being saved, and gives Tap his best Bob Barker impression. And we have moved on to looks like World 6. This is a world you typically want to see later on, just because you may have a hammer to be able to skip some of the levels. But it does not look like there's going to be any luck with that, with the first pipe taking you all the way. Wait. Ferd!
Oh, look, that stage looks familiar in this location.
So one of the reasons why we yell Ferd, if you're not familiar with the randomizer community, is that Fred Coughlin is the creator of this randomizer, and we do tend to make fun of him whenever he doesn't do his job, read a level that has been shuffled back to its vanilla position.
We know it's out of his control, but it's just still funny because he knows it's going to happen, given the number of seeds available for each,
Oh, absolutely.
each game. So,
Absolutely.
Tapatio checked his first pipe. The overworld pipes are shuffled as well. Ideally, you want the first pipe to take you just past this first fortress and allow you to skip 3 stages. Didn't happen this time, but be on the lookout for that in later worlds, where you can skip stages based on the overworld pipe layout.
The other big things that they're going to be looking out for are hammers and clouds to be able to skip stages. And it looks like Tap is doing the end spade. It looks like Jveth has an end spade available, but Jveth is going to try to get some lives off of the slot machine first.
Not a bad play.
And one off. That's
So close
for Jveth. He is on his last life as well. Jveth ignoring the end spade. Very interesting.
That is interesting. See a lot of players go for that early.
He needs to be very careful against these Sledge Brothers. Does manage to take them out and gets a mushroom to boot. One note about the items in the Hammer Brothers stages is they will always be located in the far left, far right, or middle blocks. Tap losing his footing in 6F2 takes a death. And it looks like Tap got a plethora of items, including a couple of clouds out of his end spade, so he'll be able to use those to skip levels. Tap electing to use a P-Wing on this level. Very, very close, pixels away from getting thwomped. What you'll see a lot of speedrunners do in the vanilla game is take a leaf into this level, but getting 6F2 fly is actually very tight, and if you miss it, you die. So I'm not at all surprised to see Tap use a P-Wing here. There are plenty of guides written for this randomizer that have lists of levels that are preferred to P-Wing, levels that are preferred to Cloud, etc. I think it's very, very interesting that Jveth is choosing to ignore the end spades, because we've seen, especially in this flag set, items can make a huge difference, and typically, with hammers being able to break locked doors, that is a feature that is new to the randomizer that you cannot do in vanilla. Typically, the end spade is worth it if you have a lot of locations where you can use a hammer. The rule of thumb that I like to go by for deciding whether to use a hammer is if it skips at least 3 stages, it's worth it.
I would agree with that. Not many opportunities for 3 stages here in World 6, but we'll definitely see that, or potentially see that in later. See Jveth finishing up first world airship.
Jveth's got to be happy to get through that. We might actually see him at the beginning of this next level take an intentional game over to refresh his lives counter. Very nice P speed from Tap. It's very difficult to actually make it through that level under most enemy sets without taking damage somewhere, despite it being very simplistic. Looks like Jveth is going to obtain a mushroom for his efforts, and they are both now on the same world, but it does look like Jveth is a good 3 to 4 stages behind. Interesting, Jveth not choosing to take a game over here to refresh his lives, given the amount of deaths that we've seen from him. And it looks like we have taken a trip to Diddy Kong Racing on Jveth's side, because Vanilla 6-1 appears to be Star City. Meanwhile, on Tap's side, doing some pretty clever dances to avoid taking damage against those Sledge Brothers, and gets a hammer for his efforts.
So we see alternate route here on Jveth's side, choosing the other stage, and it being one of the hand stages, which is always nice because it's fairly short, and then you're rewarded with an item at the end of it, and that item's gonna be random as well.
One interesting thing about the hand stages is that even though you don't have any control over what stages you get, it is something to keep in mind. All 3 of the items at the end of the hand stages are going to be the same in every seed. So because Jveth got a hammer suit from that hand level, he will always get a hammer suit every time he completes one of the 3 hand levels in the seed.
It's a really nice pickup. Tapatio went the other way and did not play the hand stage, so he hasn't picked up his Hammer Brother suit yet, which players looking for the Bowser fight at the end.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think he got one from the end spade.
Okay.
And Tap is in every casual player's favorite fortress in the game.
Oh yeah. No enemies, but you got this little puzzle to solve. Where's the exit?
That's not the reason why casuals love this fortress, though.
Oh, because of the coins?
because of the P-switch that you saw. It turns all those blocks into coins, and then all you have to do to make all those respawn is just reset the room. Very stylish statue kill of the Boom Boom on Tap's side. Jveth doing his dance against the Sledge Brothers and picking up a Cloud. So for those of you new to the randomizer, one thing that I recommend doing, and one thing that Tap is probably doing based on his cursor movement, you'll see a lot of players actually write down the end cards. Because one of the properties of the original game that is preserved in the randomizer is even though the patterns on the end cards have changed, there are still 8 distinct patterns. So if you notice you're getting a repeat pattern, then you can use the information that you had taken just to write down the previous end card to get 8 free items. It doesn't come up very often, but it comes up often enough that it's worth doing. And additionally, just having notes of where all the cards are in that particular pattern can save you mistakes in playing the end card game. Typically, you'll finish a board in 3 to 4 cards. So in the course of a seed, depending on how quick it is, you'll usually complete 2 boards, and depending on how quickly those completions are, maybe a third. Not too often, though. Because the value of the end spade decreases the farther you are into the seed. Nice job by Tap avoiding that rotating platform at the end of that stage. That platform has killed many a runner, both in Randomizer and in Vanilla.
Yeah, once it grabs you, it can send you right down into that pit right before the exit. Tap
getting 8F. This is one of those levels where I would consider taking a death and clouding. Tap taking full advantage of his Tanuki suit, killing that Space Waffle, which can be... it can be quite a pain getting into that door with that Space Waffle there.
He missed the door, almost fell into the lava, was able to recover. Makes the door not
so
quite
close. But the important thing is he was able to collect this coin. Saying no to the fire flower there. The actual reason why he was checking that door is if you wind up getting a star from that little room, and you may as well check it because you have to wait for the P-switch anyway. If you get a star, you can actually clip into the spikes, and if you're very, very quick, you can actually star kill this Boom Boom. But the more important part is that you can clip through the spikes while the P-switch timer is running, because the conveyor belts do not move while the P-switch timer is going on.
Right.
And it looks like we have Lemmy in this airship.
So you'll see that the Koopa Kid had 4 hit points there. He could jump on him 4 times. Koopa Kid HP has been shuffled between 1 and 5, with 3 being standard. So it can make some fights really short and some fights a bit longer.
So it looks like with his fewer deaths and careful management of items, Jveth has actually caught up quite a bit. He's only a couple of levels behind now. And finding World 1, so Tap is going to use one of his hammers. He did get an additional hammer from the end spade.
Yeah, it's one of those instances of using the hammer to skip 3 stages at the beginning of World 1 here.
The highest number of stages that you can skip with a hammer is 3, but there are so many instances of it that you might as well, unless you're just running out of spots to hammer. That's another reason why it's very important when you're playing one of these seeds to keep track of the number, or to keep track of which worlds have been played, as well as which stages that you would want to skip with either a P-Wing or Cloud. And it looks like Tap is starting his second board, so he was able to clear his first board in a pretty timely fashion. Jveth having a bit of trouble with 8F. It's not an easy level. Jveth needs to hurry if he wants to make it to that coin, and he does make it to the coin.
Interesting sprite there on Tapatio. I believe that's a result of Boss Bass and a...
Yes, Boss Bass and the large piranha plant don't get along. Right. They don't get along, so that's another bug I have to report. So I guess I'll just make a quick note of that right now.
Jveth moving on to the next airship here. World 1's airship. Pretty short, no water scroller.
I'm sure Fred has a very long list of bugs that are going to be fixed before the bracket stage.
I'd imagine so. a lot of reports since the tournament started.
And that's just as a result of more seeds being played, because I've actually been beta testing for Fred since before it was public.
Oh wow, nice.
And hats off to Fred for being able to do as much as he has with this with this game. Jveth finishing up his second world, while Tap is moving on to his third. Jveth picking up a P-Wing, and he is now exactly 1 world behind. But anything can still happen. It depends on the way. A lot of it is going to depend on end card luck, because the way the end cards work is as of now we have no way to be able to guarantee that that the end spades between both players will be the same, just because of the way RNG is called in this game. The board that you get is determined by the frame that you first enter a new board, and it can be one of 8 possible patterns. But because the RNG call to determine which pattern the game will give you is frame-based, there is no way to currently guarantee that the end spade is consistent from seed to seed. Or consistent on the same seed, rather.
Right.
That's what I meant to say. It'll be different every seed, but we have no way to make it consistent from seed to seed. In the same seed.
Player. Exactly.
From player to player, yes. That's what I meant to say.
I know what you mean. Jveth hasn't been playing the in-card game and hasn't picked up an additional hammer. So he's playing through World 1 here normally. You see Tapatio checking that first pipe, but not the ideal pipe he went behind the second fortress, so it opts to go the standard way. World 3.
I feel that hammering that pipe is worth it if you have at least 2 hammers.
Yes, because that pipe can lead you behind the first fortress, which is also locked.
Not just that, but on average, you wind up having to do fewer stages if you do hammer through that. But the point being that you do need an extra hammer.
Yeah, if you only have one, it's definitely a gamble, because you could get locked behind that first fortress lock and have to go back and play the first 3 stages anyway.
You can just go backwards.
Okay.
You can just wind up going backwards. That's what you'll see a lot of players do if they get the pipe that takes them behind 3-9.
Back to the card game.
I think that this card game is worth playing until you either are going to enter it on World 6 with a fresh board, or you're going... Essentially, what you want to do is once you hit the 6th world, you want to finish whatever board you're on and then be done. That's the way you'll see a lot of players play. There's definitely arguments for other strategies as well, especially if you're a more confident runner. There's definitely a case for even outright ignoring it. And Tap getting 1/6 fly. Avoiding what appeared to be some very dangerous enemies on that moving platform.
Nicely done.
So I would say at this point, Tap is probably about half a world ahead.
Yeah, I can say that. You see that he's in the Navy stage, typically seen in World 8. These stages have also been shuffled among the Fortress pool.
Poor Jveth, taking a death to the coupling at the end of World 1. And Jveth's starting to experience a little bit of pressure on his inventory just from not doing any end spades early on. If you're confident, it's definitely faster, but you have to be a pretty skilled runner. And even on these flag sets, just the prospect of being able to skip 3 stages is far too lucrative. If you get even 1 hammer per board, it's well worth it.
Tough combination of Hammer Brothers on TapatioJ's screen. So he would have been behind that lock if he had hammered that first lock, so looks like it may have paid off there. Meanwhile, Jveth finishes up this world. About a world behind now. We got Wendy with the Earthquake.
At least she had low HP.
Yep, only 2 hits.
I have seen some awful races with Wendy in a terrible arena with 5 HP and Earthquakes. It's not fun.
It is not fun at all, especially given the arenas layouts are random as well. Meaning the elevation changes across the fighting arena with the Koopaling.
Jveth might take a little bit of extra time in these worlds as well, just because since he hasn't been obtaining items, he will not have any hammers. And World 7 is one of those worlds where having an extra hammer can be enormous, just because what having a hammer does for you is, in World 7, there are 16 pipes, and one of those pipes will take you to the end. However, if you have a hammer, there is an extra magic pipe that you can take, which would be the one that 7F2 unlocks. And another hammer for Tap, so he has... I believe now he has a couple of hammers in reserve.
Yeah, just a reminder, the overworld pipes in each world are shuffled. That's something you don't really want to find. But...
This World 7 already giving Tap to run around, and it looks like he wants nothing to do with that island, and I do not blame him one bit.
Yeah, playing 2 stages for 1 pipe, or the other option, playing 1 stage for 1 pipe. A lot of options here in World 7.
It would actually be playing 2 stages in 1 pipe because the other 2 pipes on that island led to each other.
Right.
And playing 2 stages for 1 pipe is something that you want to have do just as a last resort, unless you feel like you're behind. If you feel like you're behind, then you would be more inclined to take that gamble. But as many of you know from watching previous randomizer tournaments, neither one of the runners are allowed to watch their opponent or the restream.
See Tapatio. He finds, he found the pipe he's looking for.
Vanilla 7-6 looks like he is going for the clip. He does not have a tail, so this clip will be a bit easier. It's still very difficult, though. The way this clip works is you need to jump into the corner of the block and just hope your subpixels are right.
Once you get a feel for it, you sort of know when to jump, but even then, exactly, you may not get it as soon as you would like.
There is a bit of quote-unquote RNG to it because of subpixel positioning. Catching the wall jump pixel in Super Mario Bros. 3 is dependent on subpixel positioning.
So how many times can you go for this clip and it be still worthwhile?
Oh, in this stage?
Yeah, quite a few times, right?
Oh, at least 20. And it looks like he might try again.
Or try the other stage. Or cloud over. He's got options.
Oh, he has a P-Wing. That's another alternative for this stage, and not 7-1, but in 7-6. You can actually fly... Oh, I'm thinking of 7-1. 7-1 is the one you can...
Uh-oh. You can still fly up inside.
One of the 2 you can fly over.
Right,
It's either 7-1 or 7-6. I know the other one, the wall actually goes all the way up to the top.
However, still with a P-Wing, Fly's gotta avoid the spikes here, able to fly up. Otherwise, you have to take these moving platforms, and that's pretty slow.
Even with a P-Wing, it is still pretty slow. You will see runners that aren't as familiar with... If you're not familiar with how to do that clip, then that is definitely a stage where I would recommend using a P-Wing. It's not worth using a cloud on, because there are more levels where having a cloud is more useful than having a P-Wing, but that is definitely one of those levels where especially if you have an excess of P-Wings, that's a good one to use one on if you're not familiar with how to do the clip. Right.
He also had the option to play the other stage if you wanted to, but decided to do that instead.
It's not an easy clip to do. It's definitely one of the easier clips in the game, but it's still not easy. The only quote-unquote easy clip in the game is the one-up clip in Bowser's Castle, which almost everyone in this tournament should know how to do. And that clip saves a lot less time than 7-1 and 7-6 clip. And it looks like by virtue of him clouding that fort and using a music box on that piranha plant, he may be done farming items.
Yeah, the piranha plant would give you an item as well, which could be... Whoa.
Nice clip.
Nice.
Nice pipe clip by Tap.
It's a one-hit Ludwig.
So, for those of you unfamiliar with any percent, for Super Mario Bros. 3, which is essentially an ace run, there are certain pipes that you can't... There are certain pipes where if you're pressing down when you catch the wall jump pixel, you can enter the pipes the wrong way. And if you do that on a very specific pipe in 7-1, you can initiate a wrong warp to the credits.
Got Tapatio moving into World 6, which is World 5 vanilla.
Ooh, nasty enemy combinations.
Going for the secret exit, and there will be an item back here.
Interesting that he decided to skip the piranha plant, but is still going for this item. Because the text that you go through, and the amount of time that it takes to actually fall into the item room, takes about the amount of time as it does going through the Piranha Plant stage.
So we saw his inventory. He has 2 hammers, Cloud, and he just picked up the music box, which probably not what you want at this stage.
He has
Maybe
5 and... If we've been keeping track of the worlds correctly, he has 5 and 4 left, and both of those worlds you want to have exactly 1 hammer. There are also fringe cases where having a hammer or a cloud can be useful in World 8, so he may choose to save one of his hammers for World 8, but I doubt it.
Yeah, being in World 5 now, we'll probably expect him to use it once he gets to the sky section of the overworld. And meanwhile, Jveth is making his way through the pipe maze, choosing to play this fortress in the next stage and see where this leads to.
And Jveth is not terribly far behind, all things considered. All it could take is just 1 or 2 rough levels to turn this around. As well as World 8. We'll talk about World 8 more when we get there, but those of you familiar with Zelda 1 Randomizer, and we call level 9 there the Great Equalizer. World 8 in SMB3 Randomizer can be called the Great Equalizer as well, and we'll get more into that when we are actually in World 8.
Yeah, I can attest to that. So we see TapatioJ moving in through the tower in World 5, and this is one of the one of 2 stages or so that are not shuffled. And the reason behind this is that it leads the exit leads to another part of the overworld. You wouldn't be able to access the second part without it, since it doesn't end with a card at the goal, or a Hammer Brother fight, or a Boom Boom fight.
This is actually the same reason why, until the latest version of the randomizer, the first tank level in World 8 was not shuffled as well.
Okay.
And eventually, that tank level in World 8 got shuffled with the regular levels. Because the way the level shuffling works in this game is that the regular levels have their own level pool, the fortresses have their own level pool, and the airships have their own level pool.
We did see TapatioJ use the hammer. Sorry to cut you off there.
4F1 is actually a very interesting level. You'll see runners go both ways. If you're familiar with how to play through this level, going the route that Tap is going is slightly faster. But the bottom route will get you a much easier to obtain power-up, and it will spit you out at that pipe right before Boom Boom. So you'll see a lot of less experienced runners take that bottom path. And Tap finding 5-9, taking a death. He is almost certainly going to use 1 or both of his clouds here. I believe he has... Yes, he has 2 clouds. Oh, I see what he's doing. He's going to use a frog suit, take damage to get a mushroom out of it, and claim an item. You'll see that done with frog suits very often, is because frog suits are not typically too useful. Oh, he's going to P-wing this level instead.
Not.
This is not a level that you want to use a P-wing on. It does help a little bit with getting to this particular block, but usually 7-7 is a level you don't want to see a P-wing on.
It's not a bad idea to use a P-wing after using a cloud, just for the extra safety net, though, so I don't blame him for using one, but not the level you want to see.
Another thing that may be relevant earlier on when you're clouding, if you cloud past a level, is you want to keep an eye on your score, because the end card will always spawn on the level that you previously completed. Not the... Whenever you complete a stage, whichever stage you completed before that is always where the end card will spawn. So if you complete a level that gets you to a multiple of 80,000 points, because the end card will always spawn every 80,000 points, you can wind up not getting an end card. So, Tap is now about a world and a half ahead of Jveth going into his 7th, which is going to be World 4. And he will need to complete 2 fortresses, 2 regular levels, and 1 airship to make it into World 8.
He does have a hammer to skip a few stages.
I like that message that's on Tap's screen.
Nice. Checking these pipes. Probably looking for the one behind Fortress here against the hammer.
And of note that Tap does have an extra hammer left, so if he runs into a situation where he would want one in World 8, he will be able to use that. And again, we'll get more into the metagame behind World 8. Tap is not going to have an... Ooh, just barely manages to get up there. I didn't think he had enough flight power to be able to get up on top of the level to claim that extra item. Now, that fortress, by nature of taking the secret exit, does not actually open up the lock, and that actually restricts where that fortress can be placed on the world map. The fortress cannot be placed on any position where a lock that is required to progress in the world opens up.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know that.
So for instance, fortresses such as 6F1, 6F3, either one of the World 3 fortresses, and 7F1, none of those fortresses can ever be 1F. It's a guarantee in the logic.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Good to know. See the sun just lurking behind. A little late to the party, though. TapatioJ was in the pipe by the time he got activated.
And it looks like Tap is looking for a couple of extra items at the end of this world. I'm not quite sure what he would be looking for. Maybe he doesn't have a hammer suit.
I'm not sure. You're looking for something, though.
Dropped base asking why the sun glitched out in that stage. The reason why is because the way the enemy sprites are in the game, they all are part of... each one is part of a sprite group, and the reason why the enemies have groups is to conserve on the game's memory. What they did was they only made it so certain enemies would spawn with each other normally, so that they can have... If you're familiar with programming at all, they have the same value pointing to a different table. So if you put 2 enemies on the same screen from different enemy tables, that's what causes the enemy sprites to bug out, is the game never expects to have those 2 enemies loaded at the same time. So it tries to load an enemy sprite with the wrong graphic. As you saw on Jveth's side, the Patui plant and Hammer Brothers are never supposed to be on the screen together. So, long story short, it's a sprite conflict is all. That's actually one of the reasons why you will see certain enemies like the Sun and Boss Bass restricted from spawning in certain levels. Because it can cause graphical glitches such as that. And TapatioJ is heading into World 8. So the way World 8 works is it's kind of like World 7, in that there are 12 pipes, one of which will take you to Bowser's Castle. And there are a couple of areas that you typically want to avoid. For instance, the hand bridge. You won't want to pass by the hand bridge until it is your last option, typically. Because if you cross the hand bridge, the way the hands work in SMB3 is there are 3 hand levels, which are shuffled in with the regular level pool. And whenever you pass by one of those, it has a 50% chance of forcing you to do the level. So if you complete the hand levels, for instance, if you went across the bridge and you only got 1 hand level, and then you find that that pipe takes you to a dead end, for instance, if you need a key, or you need a hammer, rather, to break down a locked door, or, for instance, it takes you where Tapatio just went, then you would have to cross the hand bridge again, and you wind up with a chance at having to play those stages again. Jveth having a bit of a difficult time in Vanilla 5-4, and it looks like Tapatio is going to go a different way. The typical metagame for World 8 is you'll go into... You'll want to try to find the dark room as fast as possible, because the dark room has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pipes, which will give you the most chance at finding the way to Bowser's Castle. But again, the actions that you take, it really depends on how far behind you feel you are. If you've taken a lot of deaths, you may not feel confident in your positioning, and it looks like we do have Tapatio finding the way to Bowser's Castle behind the Navy stage. So what he will do is he'll just have this 1 fortress left, and he will have Bowser's Castle. Now, typically for Bowser's Castle, you'll want to use a hammer suit and a star. The reason why you want to use a star is because of the lasers at the start of the stage. They can be very finicky to dodge. Sometimes if you just run into them full speed, you'll get under them just fine. Other times you'll take a hit, and you don't want to take a hit with that hammer suit, because the hammer suit greatly speeds up the Bowser fight. It saves something like 30 seconds. So, if Tapatio has a hammer suit, which I believe he does, he will definitely use it.
I believe he does.
Yes, he has a hammer suit, and he does have a star as well. So he's going to run right into these lasers, and he will make his way through Bowser's Castle. So it looks like Tapatio is going to improve his position to 0-2. Unfortunately, does not get the clip. Needs to be careful with his hot foot. Does make it through. Probably going to pause on the second waffle. Nice first try 1-up clip. Meanwhile, Jveth finishing up the tower and will be headed to the second half of World 5, which is his 6th world. So all things considered, especially being new to the randomizer, he has put on a pretty respectable performance, and please give both of these runners a follow for putting on a great show. Tapatio about to demonstrate how very, very quickly Bowser dies to a hammer suit. The reason why the hammers kill him so quickly is Bowser takes 32 hits to kill with fireballs. However, the hammers deal damage every frame. And what a great finishing time by Tapatio, sub 48, which is an absolutely wonderful time. Sub 50s are going to get you places in this tournament.
Definitely a very nice run. He did have 1 unused cloud, though. Just a nitpick.
Tapatio about to demonstrate how very, very... The thing about that, though, is there is a fringe... Yeah. He may have been saving his cloud because there is a fringe case.
No, I mean, there's no reason to complain about that. It was a good run, and I'm...
There is actually a fringe case where a cloud can be useful in World 8. If you have confirmed that there is... For instance, if you get to one side of the dark room and you can confirm that all of the paths on the side of the dark room you're on are exhausted, you can safely cloud past 8F and be fine. It's fringe, but I've definitely used it in a race or two.
Tapatio? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep, that's it. Perfect.
All right.
What's up, Els?
I'm sorry for butchering your name at the start of the race, but
Oh, don't worry about it, man.
But Jedab was able to correct me. Congratulations on your victory. That was a great run. I didn't see terribly too many mistakes.
I appreciate it, man. You know, early on it was rough. I think I took like 3 or 4 deaths in that first world, so I felt pretty shaky about that.
Anybody would. That was a very, very difficult beginning.
Yeah.
There were some very, very nasty levels. Jveth actually took at least 1 game over in World 1 because of how difficult seeing 7F2 as your first fortress is just never fun. Thankfully, the item layout was actually pretty nice for you with the 2 stars.
Yeah, you know, I was really bummed because I had the mushroom going into that level, and I have my timing down on that for it pretty well usually, and I just short jumped up to a pipe, just like try to cut it too quickly with the star, try to use the star as much as I could, and that ended up costing me a life there, so I was a little bummed about that, but luckily was able to just kind of get over the hill of that first world, and
unfortunately it looks like Jveth may have thrown in the towel.
Ah, dang.
Looks like he has unfortunately elected to forfeit.
Ah, sorry, man. Sorry to hear that. That's a shame.
Jveth is a bit of a newer runner to the randomizer, so given the difficulty of this seed, I'm not exactly surprised. He did manage to make it pretty far, and once he got out of World 1, he actually played a pretty good game. The big difference in this race that allowed you to vault ahead so far is you played every N card up until World 5. I don't think we saw Jveth play a single N card.
Oh, wow. And
that's actually a mistake that you'll see a lot of runners that are fairly confident in their game make, because they think that going out of the way for items is not worth it. In this flag set, the N card is going to save you more time than it takes to play the game.
Yeah, I mean, with the end cards, I mean, especially with, I mean, really, I probably play it through all 7 worlds, honestly, but at least through the first 6 worlds in just about any randomizer I've done, I'll hunt for the end cards, and I'm pretty bad at it. I mean, last night I had just terrible, I couldn't remember anything, and this one went really well for the first go, and then as I did it the second time over, I noticed it was pretty much this, I believe it was the same pattern, and I tried to go to my memory to try to remember where things were, and that totally failed me. So I was like, oh, well, there you go again with the memory thing. But it worked out pretty well.
You don't write them down? Interesting.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. You don't take notes?
You know, I've tried to take notes, and I feel like I just waste too much time like going back to my notes. So I try to rely on my memory a little bit more. I feel like I'll eventually just be able to do it just fine, but I should be taking notes, honestly, because I keep forgetting them, but that would have helped a little bit. But it seems like it worked out all right. I had extra hammers at the end, so.
You did, and you had extra cloud, too.
Yeah.
Throw that out there.
Having 1 extra hammer and 1 extra cloud going into 8 is not necessarily a bad thing, because there are definitely fringe cases where having a hammer or cloud can be useful. They don't come up too much, but especially if you find a hammer late, that's where it can be useful. But typically, once you start to get to World 6 and 7, you just want to use them when you can. But overall, you had pretty good item efficiency. You didn't have too many unused items.
Yeah. I mean, when you really go through, at least I try to at least just get 1 set of the end card done anytime I'm kind of playing through this. So usually you'll walk away with a bunch of kind of junk items like frog suits, but I love to like just throw on a frog suit and go into a Hammer Bros. And you know, if they hit me, whatever. I'll just be, you know, Big Mario or Small Mario, whatever. I'll take that. But, you know, it's always fun to be able to, you know, pull out the frog suit every now and then with the water levels.
Definitely. So, second win here in group stage. How do you feel going forward? You got 1 match remaining, or?
Yeah, we're trying to get a hold of our 4th in our group.
Right.
Yeah, just unfortunately just haven't been able to get a hold of him yet. I know we're kind of winding down time for getting the group stages done, so hopefully we're able to get this game in. But you know, that was a minor goal for me, was I want to get into bracket. So I'm pretty happy it's I've gotten the 2-0 so far, and you know, we'll see what we do when we get into bracket, I guess.
Yeah, well,
with your win, you are at the very least guaranteed another race.
Yeah.
Definitely in a
yeah.
good position.
With 4 people per group, it is possible for exactly 3 players in a group to have 2 wins, and that would necessitate a race-off for the 2 bracket spots. But with 2 wins, you are definitely guaranteed another race. And if the bracket falls just so, or unless the bracket falls just so, rather, you will be moving on to brackets.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped for it. You know, I said again last night. You know, I got to throw out a lot of love for, well, first someone who I didn't mention yesterday, and that was a big mistake, was a lot of love to Big John for getting all this, you know, kind of putting this together along with Fred. And big shout out to Fred for getting this thing created. This randomizer has like really been a lot of fun and a whole new way to enjoy this game that I grew up loving. So it's great to be able to play it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so impressive that he's been able to do so much with a platformer as well, because most of the randomizers that you see going around are for top-down adventure games like the Zeldas or a lot of RPGs, but you don't see too many platformers, and Fred has done a fantastic job at keeping this game fresh.
Yeah, I would say so.
Unfortunately, it looks like Jveth has declined to join us tonight. So, Jedab, do you have any last words?
Jet?
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, congratulations again. Look forward to your next match and to group stage, or to the bracket stage, and hopefully maybe we could do a friendly race sometime.
Yeah, no, that's what I need to get more involved in. More than just, you know, casual, just kind of nightly races. If we end up getting that going, that'd be awesome. And yeah, no, I guess, you know, thank you very much for the congrats. Thank you guys for the commentary. I very much appreciate it. It will be fun to watch the VOD.
You're welcome, and also some shout outs to all the people behind the scenes making this tournament possible.
Definitely. I think that's gonna do it for now.
Sounds good. Thank you all for having me. That was a lot of fun.
And I will leave you with the upcoming schedule. We are going to be very, very busy here on the Network Speed Gaming channels with 6 races tomorrow. At 4:30 Eastern tomorrow, we have a very, very exciting, very high-level match between Jabum and Pooh. That is going to be one of the highest level matches that you will see in this entire group phase. And then after that, we have a 5 o'clock Eastern match between Big Zeef and Killer App. 7 o'clock, we have Cavan and Gimp Extreme. At 8 o'clock, we have Cartridge Blowers and Rupert. And at 9 o'clock, we have another interesting match. We have both of these competitors are Zelda 1 randomizer veterans, being Duke Firebird and Seawolf. And at 10 o'clock, we have more Zelda randomizer veterans facing off against each other, being S Diesel and Adirondack Rick. So we have a lot of excitement for you on the Speed Gaming network of channels. And with that, I don't think I have anything more to say about this race, so Jedab, take it away.
I was gonna just mention that we've got a ton of great matches tomorrow, and then got more speed gaming action on the variety of speed gaming channels. So keep an eye out on the schedule for upcoming matches, and stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.